Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Ahmed Uzair and I am on the executive board of FAST Alumni Association of North America, which is FAANA. Apart from this webinar series and various other local networking gatherings and alumni social events, we are involved in raising funds which go to various FAST campuses as scholarship funds and the research fund. um, Doing the scholarship fund helps deserving students across various FAST campuses to complete their studies without any kind of hurdles. All this funding go through the campuses, which include Lahore, Karachi, Faisalabad, Islamabad, and Peshawar campuses. Apart from that, we have also set up a research fund, which is comparatively a new initiative, and it helps encourage innovation across various FAST campuses. Uh, Focus for 2019 is the digital engagement via webinars, which is this what we are doing right now. We are also trying to enhance North America alumni membership. We are carrying out various campus outreach activities, also upgrading and streamlining FAANA digital channels, and financial planning as well, which I would come to in a little bit. Here are various channels that you can reach out to us. There is an official website which gets updated every time there is something new. FAANA.org. There's a WhatsApp group that that can be joined. There's a YouTube channel where this webinar would be uploaded to. Board at FAANA.org is our official email address. There's LinkedIn, and then there are Facebook pages which are also pretty active. I would now quickly shift to the funding campaign for this year. For this 2019 year, we had our goal set at $52,000 donations that we had set our goal to raise. So far, we are at $22,000 with just 2 months to go, and we have delta of $30,000 for the rest of the year. I know it's a very steep ask, but what we all can do is there are various ways you can donate. If you want to donate one semester for a student, you can donate either $1,200 or $100 per month. Um, 2 semesters can be donated by $2,400 or $200 per month. And there are other various options, and you can make your tax deductible donations through our website faana.org, and it's pretty self-explanatory once you go onto that website. So moving away from this topic, going to what we are going to discuss today is that's, by the way, the FAANA website, and if you go under what's new is where we update all of our webinars and every activity that's happening. This is the 6th session in this recently launched series. Today we are going to be talking about video gaming industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and looking at the career perspectives and prospects in this field. There's a long history about the gaming industry, and our speaker is Mohsin Hasan from FAST Islamabad 98 batch, and he will be talking about his journey working, starting from FAST Islamabad and working at a bunch of local startups in Islamabad, and making his way to electronic art in Canada, and all his experiences, and sharing his insight into the industry and how he got into this industry and how he made his way further. A lot of people do not treat the gaming industry as an industry, so it would be very interesting to hear from Mr. Mohsin Hasan to see what his perspective on that is, and how his journey has been over the period of time. With that being said, I would like to share the ball to Mr. Mohsin, and yeah, uh, please feel free to share your screen, and we can continue from there on. Hello.
Assalamualaikum, everybody.
Yes, we can
Can you
hear
guys
you.
hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So my name is Mohsin Hasan. As Azar told about me, I'm a graduate of FAST Islamabad from batch 98. Um, I want to start this conversation by thanking Azar for providing this platform and opportunity to share my experiences. And I hope that this would be useful for some of you guys, at least, or some of you folks, the right way to say it, at least. We'll go through this. It's quite a bit of a presentation, but the point is to share my experiences and give you guys a channel to ask questions today and in the future if you are interested in the games industry. So with that, let me start the presentation. Can you guys see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So, oops, I cannot see the agenda on this one. Let's see if this one works better. Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you guys still see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So the presentation is sort of broken into 3 sections. Section 1 is about my personal journey from Islamabad to Canada. Section 2 is about in a AAA game studio, what are the different roles and responsibilities. And then section 3 is about the process by which we go from a concept to an eventual release of a product. So there's quite a lot to talk about. So I'm going to go a little fast on this. If you guys feel like I'm going too fast, please, raise your hand, let me know, and I'll slow down a bit. All right. Section 1, passion, luck, and hard work, my personal journey. So I grew up in the 80s. This was a time of intense experimentation in liberal arts. It's, highly imaginative time. I think most of you may not have even been born by that time, but this was a time Back to the Future came out. Michael Jackson was a thing. Michael Jackson, but not a thing. Video games were just starting to pop up, and then home consoles basically I think is a more important. Nintendo, आया था नया उस ज़माने में Nintendo. Actually, it was just called Nintendo Entertainment System. And then sci-fi was pretty big in this era. So I obviously got hooked to sci-fi. I mean, like most kids in that day and age. And the 2 things that left an impression on me, two movies of that time, were Star Wars and Tron. And the visual effects in both of those really inspired me. But I mean, Star Wars was really good, but what really blew me away was Tron. I don't know if any of you have seen Tron or not, but this was a movie that was released in 78. So, I mean, I saw it in early 80s, and this was the movie where there was an intense section of, hold on, someone's sent something. Oh, so yeah, this was the time when How do I take this away? Oops. Okay, sorry. This was the time when computer graphics was just starting out, and Tron had a full section of 3D light cycles, races, and whatnot. Or that was the thing that sort of completely blew me away. So at that time, my father bought me an Atari 2600. I don't know if you guys have ever had a chance to try it out. But I mean, this for me was a complete game changer. Not only could I see computer graphics on a screen, but I could actually control them for the first time. This is pre-Nintendo. This is pre-Sega. This is one of the earliest game consoles that came out at the time. I mean, yeah, different type of games उस पे थे, Pac-Man, Space Invaders, River Raid. I mean, I've spent countless hours of my childhood playing River Raid. I basically just fell in love with the interactivity of it, and thus was born a lifelong passion for computer graphics. I mean, as you can see, there's not much to write home about in terms of the visuals here, so you have to use a lot of your imagination. So basically, my lifelong desire was to follow the computer graphics industry and see how it's evolving. And I mean, ये तस्वीर मैंने यहाँ पे लगाई है Tron की, क्योंकि there was a Tron that was released in 1978 and another Tron Legacy, I think, was released in 2008 or 9 or something. And अगर आप लोगों ने नई वाली Tron देखी होगी तो you can see how much computer graphics have evolved from when they first did this. So, I mean, my goal was to follow the industry and the transition. So I basically got involved with every console generation since then. So I used to own a Nintendo. My friend had a Sega and Game Boy, got a Super Nintendo. And so basically my goal was to keep on trying every generation of console and see how the graphic industry was evolving. And this was when I was in school. Then at one point, my father bought me a thing called MSX, which was basically a home computer system like a Commodore 64. And it had like 64 kilobytes of RAM in total, and you would insert a cartridge to run a program. Or you could use a cassette recorder, so audio cassettes, to transfer games from one computer to another, games or other things, and it would basically run in real time. So आप एक normal जिस तरह कैसेट डाल के play करते हैं गाने के लिए, आप उसको play करते हैं, and would run with different sounds for about 5-10 minutes, and then it's taking that analog signal, converting it to digital into binary, and then creating the program out of that. So it was a long and arduous process to move data between devices, but yeah, that's the kind of things I went through to continue my passion. I think a bunch of you might be thinking that I'm a dinosaur by this point. But so one thing I realized when I started playing with this is that I need to learn programming. That's the only way I can satisfy my curiosity, because I don't just want to be able to explore all of this. I want to be part of this. So hence I joined FAST Islamabad. I wanted to do computer science. Got lucky. There was a course that was offered for computer graphics, and a guy that was giving the course was actually really good. He came in and he actually was able to teach us computer graphics, the basics of it at least. And after that course, I made a game engine in my summer break, and it was called Ye Cheese 3D. And I took it to different competitions like AQ Khan, Soft Tech, Islamabad में बहरिया का एक था उसमें. So basically, I took it. I ran it through the circuit. उस ज़माने में होते थे बड़े regular. Every year every university had like a software competition. So, and I won a lot of prizes. So I mean, that just was a huge motivation factor for me. After that, I showed that game engine to my teacher who was running a company in Islamabad. He quite liked it and he immediately offered me a job, which was great. I mean, I wanted to do computer graphics. I had just come out of a course. I had passion for it, and he wanted to find some resources in computer graphics, so he gave me a job. This was my first job. I was basically required to make a 3D engine for a industrial product. It's basically a piping analysis software called AutoPipe. So I mean, this was good. I could start putting my skill to test and then building this 3D engine. But my ultimate passion was interactive 3D, video games, home entertainment, 3D. So many, after hours, I worked on and built a game engine. I, in fact, was working with some of the students in Islamabad FAST at the time. So उनके साथ मिलके we built a game engine on the side. And another game engine as their final year project, and I was sort of mentoring them. So we built a game engine, did a demo to my boss. He liked it quite a bit, so we basically set up a separate game studio. So I basically co-founded a game studio with my boss by the name of Triangle Interactive. And at that time, I was literally running two jobs. My day job was to continue working on this engine for the engineering industry, this industrial industry. And at night, I was working on that engine and building a game demo. So one thing I want to really highlight is that the thing that kept me going and helped me evolve was finding a mentor. And for me, that mentor was, at the time, was John Carmack, the guy who built some of the most classic video games like Quake, Doom, and a bunch of other titles. So I mean, he was really pushing the boundaries of what could be done in computer graphics, and I wanted to continue to get inspired, and so he was my mentor. And the good thing about him was that he was very open. So anything that he would do, he would go out to the community and share his experience and knowledge. So that helped a lot. In fact, I credit my interest in computer graphics and being in this industry to John Carmack quite a bit, besides my boss, former boss. Okay, let me show you guys this short video. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Can you see this YouTube channel right now? Oh no, let me, hold on. Let's see. Okay, can you see this?
Yes, we can see this.
Okay, I don't know. Can you guys hear this as well?
Yes.
शेरे दी मंगलू चुके तू अपनी मौत नु दावत दिती है ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੇਰੀ ਐਡੀ ਫਿਕਰ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੀ ਕੋਈ ਪਰਵਾਹ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ
ਤੂੰ ਇਸ ਥਾਣੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਦਮ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਬਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਦਮ ਰੱਖਿਆ
Okay. Can you hear me again and see the keynote?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I know this looks very dated now, but I still want to show this to you guys because because this was a team of highly passionate people who had never done video games before coming together because they all had the same passion, wanted to work really hard and build something. So basically everything that we did for this, the game engine, the art, um, the gameplay, the scripting, everything was done in-house by literally just scouring the internet and learning how these things can be done. And so that was how this sort of my evolution initially came from student taking computer graphics course to someone who's doing something in computer graphics to doing a night job to co-founding a studio, hiring talent. Like I was very active in the Quake scene at the time. So Quake scene meaning कि उस ज़माने में वो होते थे LAN parties होती थी and वो clans थे different games के तो I was part of a Quake clan. So उस तरह I knew a lot of people who were also interested in video games, and a bunch of those were software engineers or artists. And that's how when I co-founded the studio, I did initial interviews and hired a bunch of those guys. And this was born, this product. So this was made, someone asked a question, when did I make it? So this was when I was working at Trevor. So this is 2003.
Mohsin, are you still on the same YouTube screen, or have you moved on?
No, I have moved on. I'm on Keynote. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see this campus building, right?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll come to that.
Okay.
So yes, this was made in 2003 when I was working at Trevor. We created a new studio called Triangle Interactive. So we hired a bunch of people and then we worked on this. And I think this we started in 2003. This was something we showed in 2004. This is a rough cut of a very early technology preview because we wanted to take it to sponsors and see if we could raise some funding for this. So yeah, it does look very dated because this is not obviously the final product. This is just like an internal, very early vertical slice of what features we wanted to add in the game. Okay, moving on. With all the experience I got at Triangle Interactive, I interviewed at EA in Canada, and they liked my skill set, my resume, and I was offered a position, so I moved to EA Canada in beautiful Vancouver. in British Columbia. So this is the place where I spent about 11 years basically learning how AAA video game development actually is done, and what is the method to the madness, what is the machinery that drives it. These are some of the products that I've worked on. That was one of the first ones I worked on, Skate. I was the rendering architect for this engine. So I basically built the whole rendering stack and the framework of how we're going to manage all of the rendering for this with the team. Then I worked on Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit, Need for Speed The Run, as senior software engineer. And then I finally joined the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare team. This is a product that we built in-house. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of you may have at least heard of it, if not played the Plants vs. Zombies game on the mobile phone. So the goal was to take that mobile game and then turn that into a 3D game for consoles. So this was a really amazing opportunity to go start on something from scratch, and then take an idea and build it to a product, and then get it out to people. During my entire time at EA, I worked on all sorts of consoles and PC development, and especially with Garden Warfare, I had worked in a lot of different capacities. So previously, मैं एक सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर और रेंडरिंग सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर के तौर पे काम करता है, जो कि मोस्टली कंप्यूटर ग्राफिक्स पे फोकस करता है. On Garden Warfare, I tried a bunch of different things. I worked as a producer on one of the features. I worked as a development director to manage the product release cycle. And then I worked as a technical director, managing the rendering and systems group for the entire studio. That means multiple games जो कि developer इनकी teams को मैं manage कर रहा था as well. So to sort of sum it all up, I like this because I've been rambling for a while, and I know a bunch of you are like, I don't know what you're trying to say and what is the point of it all. So I want to talk about the key takeaway of this part of this presentation. And I want to go back to the title of the presentation, which is Passion, Luck, and Hard Work. Between all three of these, two of these are in your control, always. Passion and hard work. Luck is all about timing. So for you to be successful in anything in life, you need these three things. But obviously, since you don't have control over everything, you need to focus on the things that you can control. And that is passion and hard work. I mean, Allah ka shukar, I've been very lucky to have been able to do what I really wanted to do. But again, I only had two things in control, and I really made use of it. Everything that I did in life around video games, I can trace it back to my time in Islamabad. In fact, my time at FAST. So I was passionate about computer graphics from an early age. I did hard work for it, both at the university and even after. And then I got lucky and got an opportunity to work at EA. So luck obviously is a factor that is time dependent. But those other two things, you are in your control. So you should focus on those two. And whenever the right time happens, you will get lucky, but you'll be prepared. Then you can move on. So that's the one thing I wanted to get out of this part of the conversation. Just like everything else in life, if you are passionate about computer graphics or video games, let me generalize this to video games or to anything in life, and you continue to work hard, there will be a time that you all of those sort of mesh together. And if you don't think you like playing video games or you enjoy video games, then chances are it's going to be a bit of a slog for you guys to get through this industry. So just my 2 cents there. We can take a quick, maybe 5 minutes question break here if anyone has any questions.
I think we had a question asking about actually suggesting that that particular game, Sherajat, needs a reboot, and then also asking when did you make it in university or your studio, and what was the name of your studio?
So for a reboot, I leave it up to you guys. I think I've had my fair share of it, but the IP is, I think, available. Guys are more than welcome to try it out. I can connect to some of the folks that are still in Islamabad who worked on this project, and they may still have some of the assets and the game design documents and stuff like that. So if any of you is interested, I can hook you guys up. So you guys are more than welcome to reboot it. When did I make it? I made it in Islamabad like I said, in 2003 when I was working at Trevor. This was after we had given the demo and set up the studio. That's when we hired a proper game designer who came up with the idea of this project. And we basically did the whole shebang. We started with watching a bunch of Molajet movies first to really get an idea of what the theme or the feel of that genre is, and then from there came up with a game design document and then started building one of the levels. This was one of the levels somewhere in the middle of the story, and we had a few more levels that we had built over time. And fun fact, this was basically originally we wanted to make Molajet. जब हम लोगों ने टेक डेमो कर दिया, बना लिया सारा कुछ, we took it to the guy who owned the rights. और उस जमाने में हमसे 3 crore मांग रहा था, and we didn't have 3 crore. So we said, thank you, but no thanks, and we'll change the name to Sherajat instead. So that's the story of Sherajat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I think we can take other questions toward the end of the presentation.
Okay. All right, moving on. So this brings me to part 2 of the presentation, which is structure for a game development studio. So a AAA game बनाने के लिए क्या different roles are required, and what are the responsibility. And I'm not going in a full exhaustive list of roles, but these are some of the key roles that are required. And one thing I do want to clarify that these roles and responsibilities sort of are applicable to any game, be it a AAA title or a small title. The difference, though, is the bigger the scale of the product, the more people you'll have with individual responsibilities. The smaller the product or smaller the team is, one person is wearing multiple hats, so trying out different roles, whether they know it or not. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of the key ones. So I'll start with the executive producer. This person is primarily responsible for overseeing the vision and the development of the project. So this is the guy जो कि originally idea लेता है, उसको present करता है, उसके बारे में उसकी funding लेता है, and then oversees the entire development process के हमें कितनी different type के resources की ज़रूरत है, हमारा budget कितना होना चाहिए, हमारी publishing deals क्या होनी चाहिए, हमारे प्रोजेक्ट की टाइमलाइन क्या होनी चाहिए, किस मार्केटिंग विंडो में इसको रिलीज होना चाहिए. And I mean, ultimately he's the responsible individual for answering these questions. He has all of these other partners to deal with. So publishing is a different division, marketing is a different division, but he has to be the person who engages them to understand कि अच्छा जी ये मेरे पास एक आइडिया है, इस आइडिया को मैंने वेट आउट कर लिया है, इतना इस पे हमारा डेवलपमेंट का खर्चा आएगा, इतना टाइम लगेगा डेवलपमेंट में, इतनी हमारी मार्केट सेगमेंट हमने आइडेंटिफाई किए, तो based on the numbers in the market today, this is what we expect to make out of this. So well, basically it's like cost to return defined karke, and then once he gets approval, he is managing the team to deliver that project. It's key is particular role की जो usual reports होती हैं, people who report to him are producers, and those producers are responsible for individual features or areas. So for example, you could be a producer that is focusing on doing all of this for a specific feature in the game. For example, if you're building Need for Speed, there is a producer जिसका सिर्फ एक गोल है कि जो ड्राइविंग का जो एक्सपीरियंस है वो ज़बरदस्त होना चाहिए. There is a producer जो कि सिर्फ ये डील कर रहा है कि जो जितनी भी हमारे पास गाड़ियाँ हैं गेम में उनके जो लाइसेंसेस हैं वो शेयर करने हैं हमने डिफरेंट वेंडर्स. So yeah, these are individual responsible folks who are dealing with an aspect of the game and all of the people that make up to deliver that aspect of the game. Then I'm going to talk about creative director. So this is the guy who is ultimately responsible for the creative aspect of the product. कि अच्छा जी ये आइडिया था, इसको एज अ गेम हम किस तरह बनाएंगे, इसमें क्या क्या फीचर्स होंगे, क्या क्या एक्सपीरियंसेस होंगे. This person deals with the art director, the engineering, the game designers to basically come up with the full package. For example, Plants vs Zombies हमने बनाना है, तो Plants vs Zombies में जितने भी characters हैं, how do we throw them together to make a fun product? So now that we know कि हमारी market segmentation ये है कि that's targeting 8 to 13-year-old kids, what do they like, and based on that किस तरह के हमें characters design करने हैं, किस type का हम लोगों ने action develop करना है उसमें, उनके look and feel कैसा होना चाहिए, कितना intense होना चाहिए, different gameplay aspects हैं उस game के वो क्या होने चाहिए. And so he's basically the key responsible individual for holistic creative vision of the game. And इसकी जो direct reports होती हैं वो usually game designers होते हैं. Game designers are focused on just again designing of one of the features of the game. So while the producers were responsible for delivery of that feature as an experience, a designer is the person who focuses on creating that experience. Okay, working with the producers, they know कि अच्छा जी इतना हम इसको इतना हम इसमें action डाल सकते हैं, but beyond that it's a little too much for our audience. So a game designer का then job is to knowing those constraints coming from the producer, how do they create the most fun gameplay experience within those constraints. Art director. This person is primarily responsible for creating the look of the product. That involves a thorough research of the market for what's available out there, industry कहाँ तक पहुँच चुकी है, हम किस direction में अपने आप को push करना चाह रहे हैं, how do we separate our product from our competitors visually, and they basically come up with the entire vision. Primarily, they work with concept artists, CG supervisors, and other artists. Concept artists, for example, their job is to work with the art director to create a bunch of sketches to come up with an initial concept of the product. What does it look like? How does it feel? This is at the very early stage of the project. There's a lot of iteration on it. Once we've narrowed down the concept, then CG supervisors come in. CG supervisors or computer graphics supervisors, their job is to, once the concept has been defined, figure out what sort of tooling needs do we need. Like how would we achieve that? इसके लिए किस टाइप का हमें आर्ट करने की जरूरत है, किस टाइप के हमें आर्ट टूल्स चाहिए, हमें माया चाहिए, 3D स्टूडियो मैक्स चाहिए, हुडीनी चाहिए, और विद इन ऑल ऑफ दोस कौन से एडिशनल हमें स्क्रिप्ट चाहिए. And again, depending on the scope of the game, the bigger the game, you would have CG supervisors that are for individual areas. For example, Need for Speed had a CG supervisor that was focusing just on the paint of the cars. There was a CG supervisor जो कि animation को deal कर रहा था. meaning कि आपने अगर characters बनाने हैं, गाड़ियाँ बनानी हैं, इनकी rigging and all of that, और उसके लिए जो corresponding tools चाहिए. And then there are artists whose job is to actually go and focus on individual pieces like textures that make up the look of that car, or the models that make up the whole car. So that sort of sums up the art direction part. I want to just go a little deeper in the CG supervisors because these are basically the lieutenants for art director, but their job is to solve tooling needs for delivering the features of the game. And like I said, depending on how complex the game is, for example, Call of Duty, it's a huge product, very complex. So you're going to have a CG supervisor जो सिर्फ characters के ऊपर focus कर रहा है, उनकी visuals पे. There's a CG supervisor जो उनकी animation और rigging पे focus कर रहा है. There's a CG supervisor जो कि सिर्फ world building पे focus कर रहा है. And so that means that person is now responsible for all of the art pipeline that will help us develop that aspect of the game. इनके जो usual reports होते हैं वो technical artists होते हैं and other artists again. Technical artist again is an artist who's more technical but has a good sense of art, and they are the ones that basically go and build those individual tools to deliver that particular art pipeline. For example, on Garden Warfare, one of the technical artists' responsibility was to build all of the materials for the game. So he would actually go and build using the shader graph, build all of the materials that the artist would then apply to their characters. And a CG supervisor was sort of supervising all of this delivery and final product. Okay, moving on. Development director. So this guy is responsible for this person is responsible for the overall game development budget and scheduling. So producer ने आपको बता दिया कि जी ये हमारा product है, ये हमारी timelines हैं, ये हमारा total budget है. अब उस budget को किस तरह allocate करना है to different teams, उस पूरे game development process को किस तरह हमने break up करना है into different milestones, that's the responsibility of development director. Project के risk को identify करना, उसको mitigate करने की strategies करना, all of those are responsibility of this person. The usual reports are development managers, engineers, and build ops. Development managers are think of them as like engineering program managers in other companies. So their job is to manage scheduling for individual area, for individual feature. And again, I just want to reiterate, I talk about these roles and then their reports. In a big AAA studio with hundreds of people, you'll have obviously a director and then a bunch of reports. In a smaller studio with like 10 people in total, there's one guy who's a producer as well as a development director / manager. Like the roles are shared, but think of these as the different responsibilities that people have to take on to ultimately deliver a quality product. Finally, technical director. This guy person is primarily responsible for the technical development of the product. So basically the core code that builds the game. So that includes the different aspects of the game. Rendering ho gaya, systems ho gaya, physics, networking, different features. All of them require some sort of software development to implement that feature. So this guy is managing the engineering team and the different areas to finally deliver that product from an engineering side or from a code side. Usually the reports for this person is other engineers, part of some of the other subsystems like rendering, system, physics, so on and so forth. Finally, QA director, their responsibility is to build a QA plan to test the game and deliver a polished, stable product before the release. So that includes throughout the development process and किस stage पे क्या development testing किस level की testing करनी है, कितनी इसमें automated testing होगी, कितनी इसमें manual testing होगी. Game development primarily is very focused on manual testing as of right now. So that's a pretty big aspect of it. And strategy kya hogi? How do we make sure that we're identifying issues earlier on, identifying risk earlier on? Their primary reports are, hands-on testers or automation testers. Any questions on the roles and responsibilities? Anything you guys would like me to clarify a bit more?
I don't really see any questions right now, so maybe I think we should probably continue and then for questions.
Okay. This is the final section. This is the process. Okay, there is a question. What to do when there are only 2 people? Good question. So I had a couple of friends who left EA and then started their own product. They were a 2-man team, and they released a card-based game on iOS and Android. So they were 2 artists. They took Unity as their game engine, and Unity is actually very good in terms of allowing you to develop games without necessarily knowing how to program or code. So for simple things, they basically spend the first 6-7 months of their time coming up with an idea, presenting it to publishers, and eventually getting a publisher. And once they got a publisher, they finally got the funding to hire an engineer, and those 3 people ultimately ended up shipping that project on iOS. And so again, like I said, in their case, the guy was an art director at EA. He left. He ended up being the producer, art director, and game designer. One of the other guys was an artist, ended up being the artist on the team. Once they hired an engineer, that engineer was a 1-man technical director, lead engineer, developer, everything. And they all worked together to QA the product. It was a small product, so 3 people were able to do it. So the point is, it all depends on the size of the product you're building, right? It's a scale problem. The bigger and more complex the product is, the more people you'll need. The smaller the product is, the smaller the team you'll need. But ultimately, you do have to follow all of these roles, right? All of these you have to do, and we'll talk about the process, so you'll get a bit more idea of why you have to, how and why you have to take on all of these roles and at what stages. I'll go one at a time. Is it better to start with indie titles and gradually moving onto the AAA titles? I think you can't do a AAA title without having previous experience, because a AAA title in this day and age is a hugely complex beast, and to tame it, you need to know how to tame it. And the only way you can learn how to tame it is to learn the tricks of the trade. And if you can get an opportunity to start your career at a AAA studio, by all means, go for it. But short of that, do something of your own. Like I said, I mean, I did 2 jobs. Do 2 jobs. If you're passionate about something, sham mein baith ke, weekends laga ke, whatever you have to do, build something. So ultimately, the point is you need to know what it takes to deliver something. And if that means just creating a personal project, if that means creating an indie title and releasing it on iOS and Android, whatever that takes, that is what you have to do to learn the life cycle of a software development, which again, I'm going to talk about the process. And that would help you eventually land a spot on a AAA title based on your experience. Another question, I had learned Unity but want to shift to Unreal. My question is when? These are Unity and Unreal are just tools. Don't worry about, okay, there is a requirement for you to do Unreal and then you can do AAA. Because if you talk about AAA mobile, it's all Unity. If you want to talk about AAA consoles, it's primarily Unreal, but Unity is catching up. These are ultimately just the tools. If you want, you should focus on the, and again, that's up to you. Do you want to focus on the technical aspect of it? Do you want to learn how to build a great rendering engine, or or are you interested in building a game, a, a full-on user experience for your customers? Because if you're interested in the latter, then tool is just, it doesn't matter if it's Unity or Unreal. Customer doesn't even care. They just care that when they ran that product, they had fun and a good experience. So pick the one that you are most comfortable with, because that will help you get unblocked much faster, and then just focus on the user experience. If, however, you want to learn, you want to become an excellent rendering engineer or physics engineer, if that's what you're interested in, then I would suggest go for Unreal, because it's open source, you have the entire source code. You can go and tinker with that. I hope that answered your question. All right, moving on. Process. What does it take to take a project from a concept all the way to the eventual release? So there are different stages of it. First stage is a pitch, which is a high-level concept of what your product is going to be about, or what your game is going to be about. This is where the idea can come from anyone, but ultimately the producer is the person who sorts of collects all of those ideas and creates a holistic final package that they are going to create as an experience. So that can include a bunch of video mashups of different movies to combine them together to create an idea of, let's say, Call of Duty. We want to create an action game which is in space, and you start from here, and this happens, this story arc happens, and then you end up here. And then you can take a different movie clips from different films, combine them together to create a visual experience of what you're imagining. So that is usually how the pitches happen. It could be clips from movies. It could be, if you have enough resources, you can actually create a bunch of short animation clips to create that vision, or just be a bunch of concept arts sort of on a board to present your idea as a storyline. So this is a very high level concept of what this product is about. What are the key elements of this product? What is the target audience? What would it take to develop? And what is the amount of money we anticipate to earn on this product given the market segmentation for this product? So that is the first time a producer sort of pitches an idea to other folks. That includes publishers, that includes other like-minded folks like art director, development director, to say, okay, ये मेरा idea है, help me figure out इसकी costing क्या होगी, budgeting क्या होगी, and then once they create a package, they take it to the publisher, and then if it's approved by the publishing unit or a publisher, then you can go ahead and start move on to the next phase, where you start developing the pre-production of the product. Again, if you're a very small indie studio, you do the pitch internally and create something and then take it to publishers. It varies, but in a AAA setting, it usually starts from the pitch, get an approval from the publishing unit before you even get into the pre-production stage. So the idea is you pitch this to your publishing department, the publishers say, we feel there is something here, so we're giving you this much funding, go ahead, create something, and then we'll do another review after X months. So that leads us to a pre-production stage. This is a stage where we now want to try vision to apna bana liya, now let's figure out, is it actually fun? And that's where you hire, you set up a small team that is a collection of game designers, engineers, and maybe a couple of artists. And the idea is that you sort of create like you're trying to find fun. So you use a lot of white boxing uh, for your game design. White boxing is simply just developing the world as literally white boxes. No art in there. Just white boxes dropping in these boxes to represent your characters, and then see how that experience feels. And as you continue developing, you realize either it's a good idea or it's a bad idea. And if you feel like it's a good idea, you start identifying कि अच्छा इस आइडिया को एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए हमें और कौन कौन से टीम्स और रिसोर्सेज बिल्ड या हायर करने की ज़रूरत है. एंड सेकेंडली उन कौन कौन से एरियाज हैं जो कि रिस्की हैं, उनको हमें डी रिस्क करने की ज़रूरत है. सो trying out some different prototypes on the engineering side, trying out different art style on the art side, and so on and so forth. And the further you go along in pre-production, the goal is to do usually a vertical slice of the game. Vertical slice means if your game has 10 different aspects, for example, I'm going to go back to Plants vs. Zombies, where you have an action game which does multiplayer and does and has a lot of different art styles and whatnot. The vertical slice would be to try out all of those features for just one level, so you can figure out the risk for every area. Risk for gameplay, risk for design, risk for art, risk for engineering, and then figure out how that feels. So by the end of pre-production, you should know to develop the entire game क्या different चीज़ों पे मुझे मज़ीद एफर्ट की ज़रूरत है और उस पर रफली कितना टाइम लगेगा now that we've done it once. So that way you, instead of saying okay, I'm gonna build 10 different levels as the first, and then start putting in the gameplay on it, then start putting in visual effects on it. That's called horizontal slicing of the product. Vertical slices, I'm just going to build one level, and I'm going to put the main level, I'm going to put the characters in there, I'm going to put the gameplay in there, and I'm going to put the VFX in there just for that one level and that one game feature, and try out all of those to understand कि पूरे project को build करने के लिए हमें कितनी extra effort की ज़रूरत है. After pre-production, we go into production. And again, at each stage, there is a constant publisher review. The idea is कि publisher ने कहा अच्छा okay, pitch आपने दी, उसने कहा ठीक है, आपको हम इतने से refund कर रहे हैं, आप pre-production में गए, certain time in pre-production you'll go and share your updates, and they feel like okay, you're going in the right direction, we'll give you another set of funding for the next stage, and you keep on going until you hit production. And at that point, publishing unit is fairly confident in our ability to deliver that project. So they give us a big budget, we hire a bunch of people, and then we go into full-on production. That is when now we've done the vertical slice, we know all of the different aspects of the game that we need to build. So we scale, we just throw a lot of people on it, build all of those features, add all of the art, execute the whole development plan until we hit alpha. Alpha is what is traditionally known as feature complete in typical software development. That's the time when theoretically we should have been able to write all of the code and then all of the art at a feature complete level, meaning कि जो भी हमारा जो game है पूरा वो हम start to finish खेल सकते हैं. It may not be pretty, it may be very unstable, but at least you can go from start to finish. Theoretically, मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि that is one of the bigger challenges in games and in any creative endeavor, because there's a lot of ideas that come in and that challenge your assumptions. So it's very easy to lose track of it or hit with a bad completion ratio at alpha. And that is why video game industry is known for crunch time. And that's just a matter of experience, how senior your team is, how well thought out your idea was ahead of time, and how well did you do in pre-production to do a good solid production. Anyways, so at this point, you've done feature complete, app code is mostly there, art is mostly there. And from here on, you play the whole game start to finish and realize, okay, based on this, we need to make some modifications to some of the gameplay elements. We need to change some of the story elements to create the final product. So then you go into a phase of rapid enhancements, which is आप actively काम कर रहे होते हैं designer, producers के साथ, art director, creative director के साथ to constantly polish everything. And at the same time, that's also the time where we're starting to stabilize the game a bit. Until we finally hit beta. That's the time when enhancements are complete. We actually know this is the final product we want to ship. From beta to finaling, our job is to stabilize this project. So performance, जितनी भी issues हैं उनको solve करना, crashes, showstopper bugs, सारे के सारे stage में होते हैं. And then finally, there's a moment called finaling. That is the final stage of it, which is you're converging. Your goal. You're working very actively with QA. You're trying to go to 0 bugs before the actual release date. You're doing internal testing. You're sending your build to first party, meaning the publishers, Microsoft, Sony, as the console publishers. They're doing their testing. They're sending us their bugs. We're constantly fixing it, and then we're also working on the day one patch. So the idea in the game industry, console game industry, is that you ship a product to Sony and Microsoft. They have to build it, literally write it down on a Blu-ray. So they do that part of it, but we can still continue to work on some fixes for the first day patch, which is the moment people actually get the game, they put it on their console, it downloads the day one patch, which is additional bug fixes. And finally you ship it. And that's when your official release date has come. The game is out in the market. The first thing the entire team is doing that day is literally just sitting there looking at Metacritic to see how the game was reviewed. And क्योंकि आप जब game build करते हैं आपका एक internal expectation होती है कि हमारा game would be rated 85 on Metacritic. Metacritic is just an aggregator for all of the reviews that are coming for the game from different sources. And then if you end up being ahead of that, then you're actually performing much better than you thought. And if it ends up coming much lower than that, then clearly there was a problem that we thought we were making gold and only made copper. So, but I mean, the game is done. It's shipped. It's a hard. Usually, game development is the finding stage is really hard. So that's the time when people actually take a breather. There's a thing called comp time in game industry where you get a couple of weeks off for all the hard work you did as paid vacation on top of your vacation to sort of de-stress and relax. Also go to different wrap parties for the game. So in a nutshell, that's the life cycle of a game development, AAA game development studio. Like I said, I mean, if it's a smaller team, you go through all of the same things. It's just, it's compressed in a smaller time and it's done with a lot less people. But the idea is very similar, even for mobile with Android and iOS. Questions?
Is this the end of the presentation, I'm assuming?
This is the end of the presentation.
Oh, great. Okay. No, I think, I would really like to thank you for, taking out time from your busy schedule and presenting this and, then making sure that we complete all 3 parts of the presentation within pretty much the allotted time. So that's a great effort. So thank you once again, Mohsin bhai. Really appreciate it.
Of course. No worries.
And I think we had a good participation today. We got some questions coming in as well. One thing that I would like to ask is if somebody is interested in reaching out to you, what's the best way? I'm assuming this is your Twitter handle, but like, is there any other way they can reach out to you? Or
there you go.
okay, cool. So mohsin.hasan@gmail.com is the email address if somebody wants to reach out to him. Other than that, okay, let me, from the audience, I'm going to unmute everyone. And then, does anybody has any question? I know there uh, some audience as well. So if you guys have any question, feel free to jump in.
I think it's too late for most people at this point.
Yeah, okay.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a question. This is Ahmed Malik. Thank you, Mohsin, for this valuable information. I had just a general question. This gaming industry is mostly for entertainment purposes, according to just my perception or knowledge. Do you see this kind of industry being used for by corporations or other things for non-entertainment purpose, or maybe more training, more adoption of certain technology, or other gamification? I mean, I think gaming entertainment is good. I mean, it's becoming a sport. It's a bigger sports than now these college sports, and some of the colleges are even offering these e-tournaments. But besides entertainment, are there any other value of gaming?
Yes, excellent question. So one of the things that I didn't talk about, and some of the things that we did at Trevor was is the part of the industry called serious games. And serious games is basically taking concepts of game development and applying them to specific serious challenges. So for example, there was a company in Denmark, I believe, that was working on firefighting simulation. They primarily develop scenarios where different factories में अगर कहीं पे आग लगे, to train the staff how to deal with it, they had like an interactive, think of it as a game where they had a 3D model of the entire factory, and there were different simulations, training simulations where like आग लगी है यहाँ पे, you have to run through that factory and find the necessary valves to close to shut down the fire. And it was simulated as it would be in reality. So it was like if fire hogi, aapke alarms bajenge, a certain area mein aag lagi hui, and you have to go and start shutting off valves. And if you do it in time, you pass. If you don't, the fire keeps growing, and then it just gets harder and harder until you fail. So it was primarily a training simulation using the core concepts of games. And that's something we worked with that company in Denmark with. And then there are, other recent examples of, I believe it's Amazon, where they've gamified their warehouse workers. How can they deliver more on-time packages? And so the point is, there is obviously this one aspect of which is completely entertainment aspect. The other is using the ideas and concepts of games and applying them to other real life challenges. Yeah, I mean, education sector, there's a lot of work happening in terms of games, and I think VR hasn't really taken off yet. But I believe I'm a firm believer that VR in the next decade would have a pretty huge impact on both the entertainment as well as non-entertainment aspect of it. Which and I still believe that trainings and other experiences that'll help you learn and grow would play a major aspect. And again,
Yeah.
the key element here is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. An interactive picture is worth as many thousands of words. So we just learn more when we go through doing something ourselves versus just receiving information.
Thank you. I had heard in technology a picture is worth 1024 words versus 1,000 words. Anyways, this is great. I mean, you just gave me an idea, because this is in our industry, the place where I work. We have a lot of part-time teachers or caretakers that join. So I think one of the ideas that you just gave me is basically I could help gamify some of this training or the experience before they join us, so that our retention rate could be better. So okay, that's a good example of using AR, VR, and the gaming thing to hire people and to retain them, to make them understand the job expectations before they join us, versus reading it is one thing, reading the job responsibilities, but kind of experiencing it in an immersive environment is a different experience. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else has any question or any comment that they would like to pass you all? Sorry?
I also know that Atta is on, and Atta works on at Amazon. I was going to ask him if he knows of, are there Amazon working on any services, AWS services that support gaming or game developers? But I don't know.
Yeah, actually, so I can't talk about all the services for obvious reasons. There are some services. So there's Amazon Sumerian, which is like a virtual environment kind of thing. So people have been using that to do certain things. It's not really at a level that you would compare it to other services, but it is something that you can play around with. And some of these things they have already added to their own application. For example, the Amazon ki apni app hai for buying stuff. You can go in there and have a virtual look on how that product is going to look in your house. So they're using Sumerian kind of model there to virtually interact and do an AR kind of model that you can see that product virtually in your environment through the camera's eye. So us tarah ki kafi cheezein hain. There's a lot of educational side stuff that's happening on the AR and VR side. For example, there was a demo that we did where you can have your presentations and all, and the system can take that presentation, set up a virtual classroom, and there's a virtual instructor, and that virtual instructor just going through the slides that you just uploaded so that you can sort of turn that presentation into a virtual class. So is tarah ki kafi cheezein jo hain wo ho rahi hain. There are game development related services as well, mostly on the technical side. If you just want to do game development, so uski bhi services hai. But specifically for the interactive and virtual environment is a service called Sumerian. So that'll be interesting to look at. It runs in the browser. It's still limited, but something that you can play around with.
I would also like to add that they have a full-on game development engine called Lumberyard, which allows you to basically, it's a very drag and drop kind of an engine, and it allows you to create these 3D environments, pull them in, and then integrate, get access to all of the game development tools. But it's fully integrated with all of Amazon's services. So it's integrated with Alexa, it's integrated with their machine learning services. So like you said, if you're trying to create a virtual experience, you can use that. It's all free. You can just download it, you start with it, and you publish it. It's free because they want you to start using Amazon services through that engine rather than using somebody else's services. So that is one avenue to explore, to just get a quick and dirty 3D setup and with the limited game development experience, and integrate with the additional Amazon services.
Okay, thank you, guys. Well.
Is there anybody else with a question or any comment that they would like to pass? All right, I think we are good for now. But once again, I really want to thank you, Mohsin bhai. Your camera is on also, so that's a good thing that we can see
People can see me.
for now. So once again, thank you so much for presenting this. I think this was a very um helpful topic and discussion to cover, and especially towards the end, we had a good interactive discussion as well. So that's a good thing as well.
Cool. I'm
This
happy to
would
help. I've shared my email address. If there's any other questions anyone has, or you guys want to hop on a call or go for a coffee,
Sure. Just for the record purposes, this is being recorded. So this would eventually go on to our YouTube page, and you can reach out to us via FAANA.org website. And also, if you go there under What's New, you can find out all the previous sessions as well as their YouTube links as well. So with that being said, I think I would like to sign off today. And once again, thank you very much, Mohsin bhai, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next session. Thank you. Allah.
cool. Thank you. Happy to help and looking forward to the next one.
All right, thanks.
Bye.